I've never met a leader who said, "Hey, here's my goal. I want to be as average as possible. Just sign me up for average, man. I want to be like everybody else." No, every leader I've ever met wants to be better. They want to be their best selves. And whether they feel like they're below average, at average, or exceeding, they want to get better. But the problem is we're always stuck with the question of how.
A podcast hosted by Jody Tree, Joe on the Mic, Leader Talk, tackles various leadership strategies that cover self-development, self-leadership, including spiritual and physical health of leaders. This podcast will feature guests ranging from military leaders, thought leaders, health and nutrition leaders, spiritual leaders, nonprofit leaders, and many more. All right. We're on our next episode. I'm so excited to have Jeff Cochran on with us. And I was telling him earlier that he is in my brain about leadership, and I'm so excited to have him on. I'm just going to do a quick introduction on him real quick here. And this is Jeff Cochran. He is a consultant, writer, speaker, and pastor who loves helping people live out their dreams and experience living their best lives. Amen. He has over 15 years of experience leading teams and is both the host of the Next Level Leader podcast. I love that. And the author of the Next Level Leader book. Additionally, Cochran is a certified life coach and online course creator and specializes in helping people get startups off the ground. He has 2 degrees from Tennessee Temple University, associates and a bachelor's of science, as well as a graduate certificate in ministry and theology from Princeton Theological Seminary. Jeff, I love to have you on here, man. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. I love your book. It got me excited just reading it. And real quick, I know we did an introduction, but what got you into leadership, man?
Well, thanks for having me on. First of all, man, I love your podcast. Love giving it a listen. I was actually listening early this morning while I was getting my routine going. But honestly, the whole idea of the book, because everybody wants to know, where's the book come from? What makes you think about writing? That same question you really just asked. And my story is kind of a funny one because it's not, I had this great idea and this great epiphany. It really was this about 5 years ago, between 5 and 6 years ago, I took a job at a church that was way bigger than me. I went from leading about 100 people on my best day at the student ministry that I was at to leading a ministry of over 500 a week, over 1,000 a month. I was leading double the volunteers that I was leading people before. And as soon as I got the job offer, I was confident in the interviews. I really felt like it was where God was calling us. And the moment I got the job offer and I said yes, something switched in my brain, like immediately. And this question popped up. How long is it going to take them before they realize they made a mistake and I don't know what I'm doing?
Wow.
Right. So the book was born out of this imposter syndrome almost, because I had an insecurity of I knew I could do what God had called me to do, Joe, but I knew I wasn't ready yet. So I remember I grabbed the pen off my desk and I wrote on my notepad sitting in Southern Alabama. I wrote, what separates average leaders from those who go to the next level? And I just started emailing people, started calling people, started looking people up on social media who were farther ahead than me, who had done this before, and just started asking them that question. And over the next year, the next 12, 18 months, my leadership grew like crazy. And I was only 6 months into that church. And the question they were asking wasn't what I thought it was going to be that they were going to be asking. They weren't asking, hey, can this guy really do it? I remember they set me down 6 months in, and one of the leaders who was coaching me said, hey, are you ready to take a new role? Do you think you would want to be a campus pastor or a central student pastor? And talks about these roles above me. And I'm sitting there thinking, what are you guys talking about? I'm not even ready for the job I'm in now. But they saw how my leadership was changing. And I recognized them. They're seeing that because of the answers I'm getting to this question. And that was the moment I realized I think this should be a book. So I spent another year after that asking that question to every great leader I could find, to the men and women who are awesome leaders, but you're never going to know their name because they're not in the spotlight, all the way to leaders like John Maxwell. I asked them the same question and really was able to distill it into 15 things that they all said took average leaders to the next level. And I said, I got to share that. I've got to put it in a book. And really, here's the reason why, Joe. because I believe if God gives us something and we don't share what he's given us with the world, we're stealing from his kids. And I don't want
Mm,
to stand before God in heaven and have to explain to Abba why I stole from his kids by not giving the gifts away he gave to me. So the book isn't my journey as an expert. It's not, the tips that I know, but the book is saying, hey, here's what I heard from the greatest men and women around. It all ties back to scripture and it changed my life. I believe it can change your life too. And it's just a different way of approaching leadership development.
yes, yes. And I look. A lot of people think that leaders have to be all these great stalk and like big figures out of nowhere that are beyond the pale, or these big figures that are like unattainable, and it's not, it's
That's right.
not. And when I was going through my leadership experience, and my leadership journey was kind of like yours too, because when I joined the military, I was going in like, I just need discipline in my life because I was a
Mm,
hot mess. On the outside, everything kind of looked right, but on the inside, I was just a hot mess. And going into the leadership process, I didn't know what leadership looked like. It was around me. I saw images and likenesses of leadership, but I like it what it says in your book. And this is one of the things that drew me, is that you said in your book that leaders everywhere want to get better. Right? We want to get better,
that's right.
and but they don't have an idea of how to do it. And I was at that point. It was about 15, 20 years ago. I was at
Mm,
that point. I was like, I want to get better. I see other people getting better, but I just didn't know how to do it. It was a pivotal point where a leader in my life came up to me and she was like, look, you need to stop complaining about what's going on and do something.
yeah.
And it's like, that was when the light bulb came off. Like, do something. And then that's when the question occurred. What?
Yeah.
So what do you mean? I know that's my story, but what do you mean by leaders ever want to get better, but they have no idea how to do it?
Well, I say this in the book too, Joe. I've never met a leader who said, hey, here's my goal. I want to be as average as possible. Just sign me up for average, man. I want to be like everybody else. No, every leader I've ever met wants to be better. They want to be their best selves. And whether they feel like they're below average, at average, or exceeding, they want to get better. But the problem is we're always stuck with the question of how. There are thousands of leadership approaches out there. And what we end up doing most of the time as leaders, we go, okay, I want to get better. I don't know how to get better. So let me pick a leader I admire and do what they do. Okay, I admire John Maxwell. So let me read every book that John Maxwell's ever wrote. Let me listen to every talk he's ever given. And let me try to do everything the way that John Maxwell does it. Well, that's great if you're John Maxwell. But if you're not John Maxwell, then you're trying to be someone else. You're not gifted like them. You're not wired like them. You don't have the same life experiences as them. So if you're not careful, I'm trying to be John Maxwell when I'm a great Jeff Cochran and a terrible John Maxwell, right? And often it's not even the people with the books. We pick a leader in our organizations a little farther ahead of us. And we say, okay, so I could say, hey, I want to be like Joe. Joe's got it together. I want to be like Joe. So let me do what Joe does. The problem is that's going to lead me to being more frustrated and a worse leader because even though we're similar in a lot of ways, Joe, I'm a great Jeff Cochran. I'm a terrible Joe Dietrich. You're a great Joe Dietrich and you're a terrible Jeff Cochran. So we don't know what to do to become the leader we were born to be, right? And the greatest leaders, what they understand, and this is one of the things I found in the book in the research for it that I don't talk about a lot, but the greatest leaders are sometimes the ones that they have become comfortable in their own skin. They know who they are. So this leadership approach from the book, the reason why I said that was, hey, we need a path for leadership development that is not one size fits all, but is a single starting point, right? Where everybody in a company, everybody on a team, everybody on a church staff can start from the same point, yet they can develop their leadership intentionally the way they were called to do it. So I say this all the time. If 1,000 people take that assessment that's in the book, you're going to get 1,000 different paths to leadership development. And with the 360, there's one that comes free with the book. There's a 360 that you can purchase on my website, thenextlevelleader.com. But the 360 even goes even farther. And I'm telling you, whether it's 1,000, 10,000 times, 1,000,000 times, you're not going to find the same path, because although the same things make great leaders, some combination of them or another, it's a different path for every person. And I talk about 15 traits in the book. No one is going to be strong in all 15 of those traits. And if they are, they're an incredible leader, right? I've met one person who was strong in all 14. I've met a few who were strong in 13. That's like top level. Okay. Most of us aren't going to be that way. But what we are going to do is we're going to see that greatness is inside of us for a combination of those traits. So this approach is when a person says, okay, I want to be better. I want to grow my leadership. I don't know how. Here's what it does. It says, well, here are your strengths. Know them, but put them over here. Here are your weaknesses. Put them over here because they're not going to help you. You can work on them for a decade and they're still going to be weaknesses. Okay. That's just how you're wired. But what it does is it looks in the middle and it says, where are the areas where you're not good enough yet to consider it a strength, but you're also not bad enough for it to be a weakness. And if we can find those 6s and 7s out of 10s and move them to 8s and 9s, that's when people start going, gosh, you're a different person. You're a different kind of leader. So for each person, I want to help them identify where are the places that are borderline strength traits that if I put in 3 to 6 months of intentional development, I could rocket where I need to go.
All right, folks, time for a sponsor break. Hey, everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, send me a DM if you like this episode, and share it with your friends. Again, share it with your friends. This is good leadership stuff that everybody needs to know. Visit my website at joedetrie.com, joedetrie.com, to learn more about me. And if you want a free coaching call, hey, go to my website, sign up for a complimentary coaching call. I'd love to sit down with you and help you figure out how to make 2021 the best year ever. All right, back to our episode. Yes. You know what? And I love that, because that was something I keyed in on your book too, is that there's too many times that we focus on our weaknesses. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, God doesn't focus on our weaknesses. He says, go out and do what you're called to do. He talks about there's different spiritual gifts. There's also different ministries. There's different things that we are strengthened in. He gives each and every person something different. And it's so true that we sometimes we get caught up in someone else's strengths, and then we look at our weaknesses. Why aren't I like that? Well, and I'm not trying to condemn anybody. I always tell everybody on my leadership podcast, when we talk about these things like this, we come from a point of learning, taking what we're talking about, where we try to correct you in a certain way, to take it as a positive step to say, look, am I doing something in this area that I should be reflecting on in this area instead? And this is what this is all about. When you look at your strengths, and I encourage everybody to go to his website, thenextlevelleader.com.
That's right.
And take the assessment, because I love assessments. Anytime I can get an assessment done, I do it, because you're always learning something new about yourself. Now, not all assessments are equal. I've taken the Strengths Finder, I did the Ideogram, and I can't remember this other one that I took. And I also took a spiritual gifts assessment. And sometimes at your church, they do have some of those things where you take your spiritual gifts. Look at what you are strong in, and then ask the Lord to help you build strength in it. Now, I get it. Sometimes people are scared to go into where they're strong, because they don't want to fail in that area. And I get it, because I used to be like that. And one of my strengths is being an encourager. I love encouraging people. And that's what I do. That's one of my strengths in my leadership. And I used to shy away from that, because sometimes I would encourage people and they won't listen. Oh, yeah. And I get frustrated. I said, look, man, I'm giving you some knowledge here. I'm giving you some whatever. And then they don't take it. But the thing is, I still need to give that gift, because that's right. I learned that, I might talk to them about something, give them a bit of encouragement now. That doesn't necessarily mean they need to act on it now. It's up to God to for me to plant the seed, and then God will later on in that person's life, when it needs to happen, will make that seed grow in them. And then they'll realize, hey, this is something that Joe brought in my life, whatever, or Jeff brought in my life, and I need to act on it. And God is the one who brings the fruit. He's the one
That's right.
that generates what needs to happen in that person's life. The next question I would like to ask you, because we did talk about already about the borderline. So
Mhm.
when someone they're thinking about being a leader, and you said that there are some traits in your book that says that all leaders in some way, shape, or form said that this was the one that made them separate from average. What was
Mhm.
that? If you can give a little taste of what is that little separator between average and not being average leader?
Each person can have a different separator for themselves because again they're tapping into that gift that they have, but there were two traits that had a greater effect than all of the others, and the reason why is that these two traits actually affect the other traits, so they're more than just themselves. And one's toward the beginning of the book and one's toward the end of the book, but one was leadership hunger and the other was resilience. And I think there's something about hunger, a lot of people would call it passion. Okay, it's passion, it's burden. It's basically, I've got something so strong in my belly that I wake up and I bring my own weather. Okay. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee today. I'm looking outside the window and it is raining and it is nasty. But where I go today, because I got a lunch appointment after this, it's not going to be raining and nasty. Where I go, it's going to be sunny. It's going to be bright. It's going to be a perfect 70 degrees because I'm going to bring my own weather. I'm going to bring my own passion and I'm going to call the greatness out of people because their greatness and what God's put in them is not dependent on the weather, right? That's your own passion. And there's something about hunger, someone who doesn't need someone else to get them excited, someone else who doesn't need to get someone who doesn't need someone else to get them focused, right? There's something about that leader that they go and they do what everybody else is planning and thinking, and
Mm,
it's special because if you pair hunger with some of the other traits like preparation, well, then I'm not going to over prepare because I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm trying to get to it, right? If you pair hunger with love or listening or encouraging, well, then I'm hungry not only for you to be your best, Joe, but I'm hungry enough to not let you waste time. So I'm actually doing something right now. I'm launching it on April 5th, early April, but it's a 30-day challenge. Okay, it's a 30-day jumpstart challenge. It's $30, 30 days, and I guarantee you pick one goal. One goal. It could be I want to write a book, I want to start a podcast, I want to start a business, I want to lose 10 pounds, whatever it is, right? You pick one goal and either we decide whether you can reach it or what meaningful progress looks like toward it, right? If you don't reach it by the end of 30 days, I say, hey, 30 days, $30. If you don't reach your goal or make that meaningful progress, here's all your money back. Because I want to give my hunger to some other people and say, you can wait for 10 more years and still not start that podcast. You can wait for 10 more years and still not start that business. You can wait for 10 more years and still not start reading the Bible, right? But if you do that, all you're going to have is regret. I've never met a person on their deathbed. And remember, I was in ministry for a long time. I've been around people when they die. As morbid as it sounds, it teaches you a lot about life and leadership. I've never met someone on their deathbed who regretted the chances they took.
mm.
Never. Some of them even talk about, the chances they took that didn't work out, but they're laughing and telling stories about those chances. But on their deathbed, people talk about the chances they didn't take, the risk they didn't take, the things that were inside of them that they left hidden. So hunger has a way of doing that because a hungry leader walks into a room and helps everybody else get immediate excitement about what they're doing. Their passion's contagious, but more than just being contagious, everybody ratchets up the speed of what they're doing when a hungry leader's around. Because again, it's all contagious of, hey, why would we wait until tomorrow if we can do it today? So let's prepare. Let's get everything that we can get done out of the way. But this is the good push. This is like, I think about the hungry leader this way. When you are a dad or a mom and you're teaching your kids how to ride a bike, there comes a moment with every kid where they're like, don't let go, don't let go. I'm not. And you lie to them and you send it on anyway. I think there are a few lies that God must be okay with. And that has to be one, or none of us would have ever ridden a bike. Right. So don't let go. I'm not letting go. And they turn around and you're 100 feet behind them. Right. A hungry leader does that for the people around them. People are going, don't let go, don't let go. And all of a sudden they turn around and they go, how did you let go? And you say, you've been pedaling. this whole time, right? So if you can get hunger, or if you don't have leadership hunger, if you can surround yourself with a hungry leader, right? Everything's going to go faster. You're going to go further, faster than you ever thought you could, because hunger just injects an energy and a focus and a passion and a belief. It is the secret ingredient that you need to get that stew ready to eat.
Mm. I love it too because Les Brown, who's a great motivational speaker, he talks about being hungry.
Mhm.
It's about being passionate about, and that's he has he is the epitome of staying hungry. I mean,
Mhm.
he grew up in a little. People don't know Les Brown. Look him up. He's in YouTube everywhere. You just look up Les Brown, Les Brown, and he had to stay hungry because he was told at a young age that he would have a learning disability for the rest of his life.
Mm.
And you would have never known that today, seeing how successful he is, the motivation he has, the impact he's had in the world, and so many people around the world, that if he would have accepted that lie that he had a learning disability, if he would have accepted that and not stayed hungry to do better, we wouldn't know him today and the
Yeah.
impact that he has. So staying hungry is vitally important. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna throw that question in there.
Mhm.
There are some people, they're afraid. They have a hunger, but
Mhm.
they're afraid to go after that thing that they're hungry for. What would you tell that person that's kind of like hesitant? Because it's kind of almost like
Mm.
that like you said before, the imposter syndrome. But what would you tell that person who they have that hunger, but they're afraid to go after it?
Well, honestly, I would challenge them, and I'm going to challenge them in a couple of different ways. I'm going to start from the challenge of a Christ follower. And I know that everybody listening may not be a Christian, right? So I'm going to challenge it in a different way in a moment for the non-Christ follower. But for the person who's a Christian who believes in Jesus, I would simply say this: if you are hungry and you have a desire in front of you, there's only two things you need to check. If I have a desire in front of me, I have the gifts to do it, and it's been confirmed by two or three witnesses that I have what it takes to do that. Okay. Then if you don't do that, you are choosing to put more trust in the enemy than God. Because if God put a gift in you and he put people around you to confirm it, and you don't use it because you're listening to that fear, well, scripture says that God didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of power, of love, of a sound mind to say, hey, that fear seems real, but that's coming from the enemy. Because, enemy, you got to hear this. God gave me this gift and this passion and this desire. So you need to go take a hike. And I would just, this is hard, and this is not for condemnation, but this is to wake people up. If you have a dream and you have a gift and you have a desire and you're not using it because you're scared, that is essentially, and this is going to sound really difficult, but I want people to take it. To me, that's just worshiping the devil, because it's worshiping the fear in your life. You're bowing to the fear in your life. I do not want to stand before God and him say, I tried to give you breakthrough. Let me show you the plan I had for your life. And then let me show you why you didn't live it, because you lived somebody else's plan, because you live scared. And I talked about this with a friend actually earlier today. But think about how Moses felt when
Mhm.
God said, hey, you're going to deliver these people. He's seen God do all of these plagues. Yet when he's standing at the Red Sea with the entire nation of Israel, this young nation with him, and all of a sudden he looks back, the Egyptians are coming. They're coming to kill him, and there's nothing but water in front of him. God specializes in last moment rescues. What if Moses had bowed to the fear?
Mm.
What if he had bowed to the fear? No, his worship was just wait. Just wait. Because why? What did God say to him when he started the ministry? He said, Moses, what's in your hand? I have a staff. I have, more accurately, I have a stick that I've been walking with. And what did God say? Stick's enough. Every miracle happened through that stick. So what's he doing? He's waiting. He's got the Red Sea in front of him. He's got the Egyptians to his back. And everybody he's leading is saying, why did you bring us out here to die? You're a terrible leader.
Mm.
And he just holds. What God gave me is enough. And when it was time, he stuck the stick in the ground, the Red Sea parted, and the rest is history, right? So look, you can get to the end of your life. And I would just tell that person, you can get to the end of your life and say, I squeezed every bit of juice I could out of the life God gave me. Right. Or you can get to the end of your life and say, I feel like I lived someone else's life and it wasn't the right one for me. Okay. The enemy, your enemy, the devil, prowls about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. He devours more of us through fear than anything else. Maybe the way he's trying to devour you is not to get you to cheat on your spouse, not to get you to walk away from the faith. Maybe the way he's trying to devour you is to get you to stay on the sideline because you're scared of what could happen if you took that chance. So let's give God the worship he deserves and give him the best gifts we can from the gifts he gave us. He gave us these gifts. The gift we give him is using them, right? Now, if you sat through all of that and you're like, okay, I almost turned off, Jeff, because I'm not a Christian, but I do listen to this because Joe makes a difference in my life and leadership. I would tell you this outside of the Christian perspective, if you just put it over here, I would say that if you're a hungry leader, but fear is holding you back, you're not really a hungry leader and you're not really a leader. Because if fear is holding you back from doing what you want to do, what you know you can do, and what you think is right, you're not leading yourself. You're letting fear lead you. You're letting circumstances lead you. You're letting what other people may think lead you. And if you're being led by other people's opinions, you're being led by them, right? I cannot be a leader and let what people say on social media about me control me, okay? I've been blessed this past year. God allowed me to grow a TikTok platform to over 45,000. But guess what? Every day somebody's calling me a false teacher or somebody's, saying I don't know this or I don't know that. Or, man, at one point I got a comment about a week ago where somebody said, what is he wearing? And they just start going nuts on what I'm wearing. So my answer, I commented back. I normally don't comment back on it, but I commented back on that one. I said, well, I'm wearing a jacket, a shirt, pants, and shoes. What do you wear? Right. And he's like, oh, okay, fair enough. I had another person who said on a video, a sermon that's been heard millions of times. I can't tell you how many people come to faith in Jesus because of it. Yet I had a person that still bothered me just a couple of months ago, said, gosh, I love this message, but his voice annoys me. Right. Well, I just told him, I said, hey, I'm glad you like the message. Preach it in a better voice. Share it. You have my permission. Right. Because if I'm letting those people control me, then I'm not leading, I'm being led. Right. And if I'm either letting people lead me in that scenario or I'm letting fear lead me. So I would simply say this: if you're hungry and you have passion and you're trying to be a leader, but you're letting fear hold you back, then actually what you are is you're afraid. You're not a leader. You're not hungry yet, but you can be. And here's what I know. The moment we step into fear and we play this game, ask yourself this question: what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst? Okay, I'm going to start a podcast. Joe's got a podcast. Jeff's got a podcast. I want to start a podcast. What's the worst thing that could happen? Nobody listens. Well, I got better at speaking. I tried something. I know that podcasting is not my platform. So now I can try blogging or I can try live teaching or I can try something else. But what's the best thing that could happen? What's the best thing that could happen? My podcast is reaching people in 10 countries now. Some of them are countries that I didn't even know existed, Joe, right? What's the best thing that could happen is that God could do more with my gift than I could do on my own. Okay, I'm going to write a book. I want to write a book, but I'm scared. Well, what are you scared of? What's the worst thing that could happen? Nobody buys my book. Okay, if you write a book and nobody bought it, do you realize you're still in the top 2% of people who have ever lived on the planet? Less than 2% of people ever write a book. Here's the kicker: 81% of Americans say they want to write a book and believe they have a book in them. Only 2% have ever written it in history. Less than 1% write it now. Here's the other thing. I write a book. Well, what if not many people buy it? Well, what does not many people mean? If you write a book and it sells more than 200 copies, the average book sells less than 200 copies. So I had a person ask me when my book launched just about a month ago, they said, hey, how's it doing? And I hadn't looked at the numbers yet. I said, I don't know. I know it's impacting people. I haven't looked at the numbers yet. And I said, but I know it's doing well. They said, how do you know it's doing well? I said, because we sold more copies than the average book sells before it launched. I had people not only pre-order, I had people sow in the seeds when I asked for help and said, hey, can you help fund this project early on? I had more than 200 people help fund it, right? So
That's
what's the
awesome.
worst thing that happens? Nobody buys the book. What's the best thing that happens? I know right now there's people, leaders who are reading the book and talking to me about it in London, in Canada, right? So it's already international. It didn't have to be a bestseller to change someone's life. When we got on the call earlier, you said, Jeff, I'm loving your book. You're in my head as a leader. Here are the things that are making an impact. Well, that would have never happened if I didn't write the book. So if God told me to write the book and I want to write the book, who cares if not many people buy it? If it affects one person for the rest of their life, was it worth it? But when you start saying what could happen, oh my gosh, if I write it and no one reads it at all, I'm in the top percentage of people, right? What happens if I start this business? What's the worst thing that could happen? It fails and you go back and get another job. I left the local church world, my job. I'd been in my career for 17 years. I left my job as a pastor to start my own business in January. I've had more job offers since January than I've ever had in my life. If this fails, I've got plenty of options. I can work about anywhere that I want. But if I do that for the rest of my life and I don't take a chance on this business, I can already name off about 100 people whose lives wouldn't be changed, right? Who are changing lives. Because right now I'm pouring into multipliers. I'm pouring into people who are impacting other people. So I would ask the question: what's the worst thing that could happen? What happens if I fail? And then what's the best thing that could happen? The best thing is always bigger than the worst thing. And when you ask what's the worst thing that could happen, you literally take the club out of fear's hand. Picture fear as a person coming to attack you. You take the club out of its hand, you put clown shoes on that sucker, you punch it in the face, and you move on. And I tell my youngest son, he's 8 years old, and or he's 10 years old, and we were doing some stuff in football this past year, and he was scared about failing. And I just told him, I said, that's not God talking, that's the enemy talking. I said, what do we do when the enemy talks to us about fear? He says, we punch him in the nose. I said, that's right. So what does it look like to punch fear in the nose? And that's what we got to know. What does it look like to punch fear in the face? And if you're having trouble doing that, ask the question: what's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen? If the answer to what's the worst that could happen isn't I die, then you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead and do it, and God's got you.
Man, mic drop right there. Can we have a mic drop, please? No, that is so good. That is so good. Guys, listen, guys, women, everybody, whoever's listening, Jeff just gave you some gold, because the reward is much, much better than doing nothing at all.
That's right.
And I've said this before: if you're afraid of failing, if you're not doing something, you're failing. So you're walking right into the fear that you're fearing the most. Instead of just stepping out, just step out, take that chance, because the rewards are so much better.
If
And
you're afraid of failing, you're afraid of succeeding.
yeah,
You can't have one without the other.
exactly. And just like you, Jeff, when I started this podcast, I was scared to death, because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm an introvert. I don't like talking too much. But that was fear. And
Mm-hmm.
God put it on my heart to do this podcast. And just like you, it's like my podcast is being heard in 8 different countries that I never thought I would ever imagine talking into. And we just celebrated over 1,000 downloads,
Wow.
which is so exciting, and I'm so happy about it. And the journey has been so joyful. You get a joy out of doing it.
That's
And
right.
that's what we want people to have too in leadership, because leadership is not a scary thing. I mean, sometimes there's some, there's stress in life, like in any other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the joy of seeing people being changed, the joy of seeing people go to the next level in their lives, that's something that God wants you to experience.
That's right.
He wants you to experience joy in that role that he wants you to be in that business that you want to be in, that he put that in your heart to go after. And what saddens me is that I've heard stories, and I've had conversations, we've been in masterminds, where someone said, I've had this book in me for 10 years. And we're like, dude, 10 years? Yeah, God put it on my heart. Do something about it. But don't sit there. If God put it on your heart, put it out there because he put it on your heart for a reason, because people need to be changed by what you're saying, what you're going to say, what God's put in your heart, the
That's right.
experiences, because someone else needs to have encouragement in what you've experienced. It's not saying to be like we said before, leaders don't want to duplicate themselves.
Yeah.
Leaders want to duplicate other leaders in their special gifts, talents, and abilities, because each and every one of us are created unique in Christ. We all have something to contribute in our own special way. So
Yeah.
leaders always create other leaders, but they don't create a clone. If you're creating clones, that's not good, because that person is not living in their fullness and potential in Christ, what
Well, and
God
I
gave
would
them.
say this,
Mhm.
if we're creating clones as leaders, we're only cloning the bad things. You
Ooh.
rarely clone the good things. It's and that's the thing. A clone is never as good as the original. So you're
Whoa.
cloning the worst parts of you. The world does not need the worst parts of me, Joe. The worst parts of me, I've spent 35 years trying to get rid of or overcome the worst parts of me. So I try to make
Mhm.
a clone. I'm perpetuating those in someone who hasn't had 35 years to overcome the negative.
That is so good. And yeah, but here's the thing. Jeff is encouraging you to go to the next level of your life. Average is not good. And you know what? And I like it. I don't know if you ever heard of Andy Mineo. He's a rapper.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, in one of his songs, he says, I'm not created to be average. He said, thank God I'm not average, because God didn't create average. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, that is so awesome. And that is so true. Each and every one of us have a unique, special gift, talent, and ability. And we need to figure it out. And that's why I'm always pushing people.
That's
You
right.
have something in you, find out what it is. God tells us in his word to, if we search and seek him diligently, he will direct our paths.
That's
He
right.
will direct us in the area and place and level of life where we want to go, but we just got to seek him.
Yeah.
And like you said, we got to overcome that fear. That's why I love faith over fear.
Yeah.
When we have faith in what God is going to do, the fear is going to go away. And we go seek in what he wants us to do in our lives. We become leaders in our lives, being led by him, of course.
That's right.
And he will lead us in the areas that we want, we where he wants us to go, in our passions even, because who
Mm-hmm.
gives us that passion? He does,
That's right.
because of his creative abilities, because he has a passion, and he has a passion for us and to work in us and through us.
That
Uh,
30-day jump start
yeah.
in April. It's the whole reason why I'm doing it.
Mhm.
I actually had a guy who asked me the other day, another coach, he said, "You're charging way too little for that. $30 and you're offering a money back guarantee." He's like, "Are you not even trying to make money?" And I said, "No, I'm trying to wake people up to their potential. Because when they see what they can do, then that's going to help me help them more. But right now, I'm trying to remove all the barriers and asking two questions: where are you stuck? And what are you waiting for?" I don't ask if you're stuck, because if we're honest, we're all stuck somewhere.
Mhm.
There's somewhere we want to be where we're not. So, where are you stuck? What are you waiting for? And here's the secret: there's no good answer to what are you waiting for. There's
Yeah.
no good answer. The only good answer is what are you waiting for now? Right. So, my thought was, and I told this other coach, I said, yes, I'm going to lose money, because in that coaching, in that 30-day jumpstart, I'm doing live teaching every day. I'm doing interviews with other coaches. I'm giving away free resource downloads every single day, offering a Facebook community for people to be in for accountability, right? But above that, I'm offering 2 live coaching sessions with you one-on-one with everybody in there. So I'm capping it at 100, right? I'm losing my tail financially on this challenge. But I know if I can take 100 people and help them take a step in 30 days toward their dreams and their goals and their passions and their purpose, that is a bigger step than they've taken in the last 10 years, I'm going to wake up something in them. The
Mhm.
finances will take care of itself later, right? But I want to see people move. And what would happen? What would happen in 30 days if 100 people took that step, right? So, whatever it is for you, you got to ask that question: where am I stuck? What am I waiting on? Right. And if you identify where you're stuck and you give the only good answer, I'm waiting on now, man, half the battle's already over. Anything we want to do great in life, Joe, we have to start before we're ready. You
Mhm.
started this podcast before you were ready. I started mine before I was ready. I started writing this book before I was ready. I started my own business before I was ready. Heck, I started ministry at 17 years old. I wasn't ready for that either. I got married at, 19 or 18 years old. I wasn't ready for that. My whole life is I did things before I was ready. So when people say, "Hey, Jeff, how are you living the life you're living?" I believed what God said about me and I took shots before I was ready. Because actually, what it took to get me ready was starting,
Mhm.
right? You go back, you listen to the first episode of both of my podcasts, it sounds like trash. And I've left it on there for a reason. I didn't take it down. I haven't renamed the episodes because I want people to know, start with what we talked about earlier, Moses, start with what you have in your hand, right? I had a cell phone and I had my living room, and that's how I started. But I had a message to get out, right? So, man, where am I stuck? What am I waiting for? And when in doubt, just start. You will never regret starting.
Mm-mm-mm. Hey guys, and hey, look, hopefully you've been taking notes. You need to listen to it again. And Jeff, again, where can they find you, and where can they go
Yeah.
to sign up for your 30-day event?
Yeah, well, the best place to go is jeffcochran.online. That will link you to my books, to social media, to the podcast. It'll link you to the nextlevelleader.com as well, which is just about the book and the assessment. But as soon as you log on to jeffcochran.online, you'll see one of the first three buttons that pops up is join the 30-day challenge. And again, we'll sit down together in a one-on-one coaching session. We'll identify a goal or progress you want to make. And if you don't make it, if you put in the work and you don't make it, 30 days, money back guaranteed. So for $1 a day, it can change your life. I believe it will. And I would love to meet some of your listeners, love meeting new people through these. So jeffcochran.online, they can find everything there. And hopefully I'm putting out a lot from the blog to social media, to the podcast. I just want to add value. So again, I want, even with this challenge, it's over $3,300 worth of value. And I outline it when you go and you click on that join the course. It's going to show you everything that's there. It's over $3,300 worth of value for $30, right? From the stuff I give away for free to the book at $17.99. I want to spend my life. If you ever buy something from me, I want you to say, I got 100 times the value I paid for. Period. That's what I want you to have.
Mm-mm-mm. Guys, you're getting such a great value. I highly suggest, and I'm gonna put the link in this next podcast so everybody can have the link to it. Sign up. I'm telling you that's a super offer. That's like a no-brainer. And he's giving such great value. You're getting so much out of his life. He's giving you guys literally years and years of experience, condensing it down to help you not go through 20 some odd years of hard knocks and development and oh boys and why did I do that? He's going to give you some real valuable training and coaching. So sign up. He said that you only have 100 seats.
Only have 100 seats because I'm giving over an hour's worth of coaching to every person who's in there,
Look,
plus the time to teach it. So for about a month, that's going to be my life.
mhm. Look, guys, just sign up. There's no excuses, right? There's no excuses.
That's right.
Super valuable, and you're going to learn a lot from him. And just him and I having conversations, and I've seen him on other podcasts. He just has a heart, tremendous heart to see people grow and excel to the next level of life. That's why he called it Next Level in his book, which I love, and it's been helping me out. I got excited reading it. I'm pretty sure you're going to get excited reading it too. Any last words, Jeff, before we end the podcast?
Yeah, if there's one thing I would want listeners to really take in, it's there is more in you than you know. God created you with so much in you. So if you can't believe in yourself yet, would you borrow my belief? Would you borrow Joe's belief? Would you borrow God's belief? Right? We believe in you. There's more in you than you know. And when you take the governor off of your life and you say, no, I'm gonna let go and I'm just gonna take a shot. I'm gonna step into what God called me to. He is going to multiply it more than you could ever dream. And I believe, Joe, the world will change when we begin to believe that what God put in us is really in us. So, if nothing else, take a chance on yourself this week. Take a chance on yourself like you never have. Bet on yourself because God bet on you. I'm betting on you, and you're a good investment.
Amen. Hey, I can't say any better than that. Go follow him. Go to jeffcochran.online. Check him out. Sign up for his challenge. Is it a challenge?
Yep.
You call
30-day
it challenge?
jumpstart challenge.
His 30-day jumpstart challenge. It sounds super awesome. He's given so much value. jeffcochran.online. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. And like I always say, have a positive expectation of God's goodness in your life. Take care, guys. God bless.